En nombre del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo.
Amén.
Amén. Buenos días, bienvenidos.
Buenos días, padre. ¿Cómo está?
Siéntense, por favor. Gracias. Good morning, God bless you. Welcome. I'm not going to preach in Spanish. It's not that good. I just know a couple of words. Poquito. But I did get to exercise a little bit of it, as you may know, because last week, starting on August 7th, we sent a group from St. Mary's and some of the surrounding parishes down to Mexico to participate in Project Mexico. We had a wonderful group. We had 9 people from St. Mary's plus 3 people from 3 different parishes in the area. And then we were also joined by Preachasa Laurel Frisbee and her granddaughter from Arizona. So we had a nice group, 14, and then we were paired with another couple families and another person, so a total of 22 were our team, plus a wonderful handful of volunteers and a wonderful site coordinator at the project. If you don't know what Project Mexico is, quick summary. Project Mexico began as a home building mission in the Tijuana area, started by Greg Yova, a son of our diocese, the son of a deacon of our diocese, who was living in California and doing these home building missions, and realized that this was something that he really wanted to get Orthodox people involved with. So he started this mission, and they started building homes. And as they went, they realized and began to learn some of the other problems in the area, and discovered that there was a need, a niche, if you will, that needed to be filled in the orphanage system, where young boys, especially boys who were aging out of maybe the other orphanages and entering into adolescence, were being basically fed out into the streets, and they didn't have a place for them. So they also started an hogar, a home for young boys, for adolescent boys, called Saint Innocent Orphanage, San Inocencio. And that's been now going for, I don't know how long. I want to say 30 years-ish or something like that. It's been going for quite a while. And the home building program has increased and increased until this year they had, I don't know if it was a record number of builds, but it was it, Nathan, did they say 26?
27.
27 homes were built this summer over the course of 8 weeks. So that's close to that's close to 4 per week. On the last week that we were there was the last week of building. We only did 2 homes because a lot of the groups are already getting ready for school and so forth. And so we were one of those groups of 27. If you want to imagine what it was like, the home that we built, the home that we built was about 13 by 26 feet. That's approximately kind of the size of the altar area, if you will, lengthwise and then depth. And we did that on a space of land smaller than this room here. So imagine building a home that big in this room, plus 22, 27, 28 people working, plus all the materials, plus a family with little children kind of rolling around and moving around the area in a very tight area that was not super prepared or super finished, a lot of dangerous materials and handicaps and hazards in the way, and we did that in 4 days' time, 4 days of labor. We came to find out, and I wasn't surprised having done 2 other homes with Project Mexico, this was one of the most difficult work sites that they had ever worked with for a number of reasons, both the physical layout and the logistics of making it happen. It was in the city and not out kind of on the hillsides where they usually do it. So it was really intense. But I have to say, I don't know if I've seen some rough things in Mexico down there. And this was one of the roughest situations, if not the roughest, in terms of the living situation that they had going in before the building. You could not call what they had a house. There was an extension on a building with a couple walls, a lean-to roof, one area with a bed in it that the two parents and the small youngest children slept. They had 4 more children. I have no idea where they slept. A small cubby with a broken toilet that was still in use, let the reader understand. And then a kind of an open air area off to the side, alcove, where they could do food prep. None of it particular, none of it insulated, none of it enclosed, none of it sanitary, nothing. Very, very rough situation, very poor family. I've never seen poverty like that, even in Mexico, basically. Very, very hard. But by the end of the week, and you've seen the pictures hopefully on Realm or maybe on our Facebook page, and if not, I encourage you to go look. They had a house with 4 walls, 2 windows, enclosed windows, and a door that locks. A place with a stable, clean cement slab, and some security, and even painted. Painted a nice bright blue that they really enjoyed. It's such an immediate, for us, we would look at that and say, yeah, that would make a great shed in my backyard, maybe. That's the kind of building it was. For them, it became a palace compared to what they were living in. And as I told the group, remember, no matter how good you feel about what you did this week, you get to go home to the home that you normally live in. This is their home now. As wonderful, as much of an upgrade as it is, this is still, that's their home. So don't feel too great about what you did. There's still a long way for this family to go. And chances are, this is probably as good as it will get for them, frankly. So it's hard. It's a hard ministry to do. You're doing God's work. You're making an improvement in the life of a family. And at the same time, you just wish so hard you could do so much more. But then you have to go home. And maybe you come back another year and you do it for another family. Or maybe you support a group, like so many of you supported the group and you prayed for us while we were there. And it made a huge difference, by the way. Because of your support, we were able to take a nice, large group. And because of your prayers, we were able to really have a wonderful week. It was everything that could have gone wrong, didn't. And everything that could have gone well went really well. And one of the members of our team, a young fellow, he said, I had the best day ever. And then the next day I said, this is the best day ever. And then on the third day he said, this is the best day I've ever had. He said, I've just had the 3 best days of my life being here and doing this. So what you did was hugely impactful. Even if you weren't physically present with us, this community and your support made it possible. And so I want to thank everybody who was a supporter of it, on behalf of our group, on behalf of the family, on behalf of Project Mexico and the St. Innocent Ranch. And there's more I could tell you about it. My daughter suggested that I tell you a little bit about the theme of the week, because every year they also have a theme for the year, and during the week we have prayers. We do the paraclesis in the evening during the Dormition fast. We have morning prayers. We have liturgy, of course, on the Sunday. And after the morning prayers every day, there's a sermonette, if you will, a little lesson. And so I was blessed and voluntold to give 2 of the sermonettes that week by the other priests that served there. And so I'll share with you a little bit of what I said. The theme of the year was the unseen warfare, the spiritual warfare that all Christians engage. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, spiritual warfare sounds really exciting. Warfare, bombs and explosions and combat and glory and blood and souls, whatever. It sounds dramatic. But real war is actually really boring. Anybody who's ever gone into war or gone into deployment or something knows that the majority of that experience is what can be called hurry up and wait. It's a lot of doing nothing or being in a state of preparedness. When the violence does come, it's fast and swift and merciless and harsh. But for the most of the time, it's long, drawn out, extremely boring, and difficult on the soul, even, because of that, because of the isolation, the difficult circumstances. Spiritual warfare is very much like that. The majority of spiritual warfare is primarily remaining in a state of readiness and being in a defensive posture. It's not a lot of glamorous spiritual combat. And so in order to endure that, you need a few things. And this is where I connected it to the building work that we were doing. You need a good foundation. The first day of our build is always laying the foundation. Laying the foundation is actually the most difficult work of the whole week. It's physically exhausting, but it's quite satisfying when you're done with it. You have to level hard, scrabbly ground, which is not easy in itself. Mexican ground is not like your nice, soft Virginia clay and soil. It's hard, sandy, dirty, dusty, rocky earth, and you have to make it suitable to lay the foundation in the first place. So you have to kind of dig some things out, level up some things, do a lot of work. Some groups get stuck with a site that has tremendously bad slope, and they have to cut into it here and raise it up there, and it's physically exhausting. Then, once you have that done, you have to mix the concrete, which is physically demanding. It's very hard to, you're not just doing a little batch, you're doing huge basins of it 20 or 30 times, okay, with hundreds of pounds of material in it, and people raking and hoeing and mixing it with water, and the cement dust gets in your face, and it's terrible. It's very messy, you get gross and dirty, as you'll never get. And then you lay it all out. And then when you lay it all out, somebody's got to very finely smooth it very precisely. And it all has to be in a proper measurement. Everything has to be laid correctly. If the foundation is done wrong, the whole site will suffer. Can't build on it. They've gone to sites where somebody actually poured some concrete there, thinking they were being helpful, and all that meant was they had to break that up, replace it entirely, which caused them a half-day delay. So that happens. In our spiritual life, we need to have the correct foundation. The Bible tells us no other foundation, St. Paul says, no other foundation can you lay but Christ. And later he says, Christ and the prophets and the apostles, with Jesus being the chief cornerstone. The cornerstone being that first stone laid from which the rest of everything gets laid out. So our foundation has to be solid, it has to be well-formed, it has to be Christ. A true understanding, a correct understanding, an orthodox understanding of who is Jesus Christ. And having that relationship to Him as the foundation of anything else we're going to do. If we stand on Him as our foundation, we are in a good defensible position and a good state of preparedness. The Lord says, he who builds on the rock and he who builds on the sand, when the floods come, he who builds on the rock, the house stands. But he who built on the sand, it got washed away, right? So our spiritual life is built on rock, not on the sand. And the rock is Christ. Your spiritual life then can be defendable. Even when you have strong walls, if the foundation isn't firm or solid, it is vulnerable. I told them about medieval warfare, because I'm a nerd about this, And I said, one of the things that people would do is, a lot of medieval warfare was that boring kind of long-term warfare called siege warfare. You'd want to attack an enemy, and you'd roll up on his castle with your guys, and they would all run into their castle, shut all the doors, and get all tight. And then you're done, because if you send your people against them to go over the walls, they just, shoot you with arrows and you're done. So they'd slowly wear you down over time, try to starve you out. If they didn't have time to kind of do that long-term siege, one of the things that they had was called sappers. Sappers, they're not people that went to trees to take the sap. Sappers were miners. And what the miners would do is they would dig tunnels under the wall. Not necessarily so that they could come up and surprise you, because frankly that wouldn't be a big surprise if somebody came up, stuck their head in and went, hey, donk. No, what they would do is they'd build the tunnel just under the wall, and then they would fill it with pitch and tinder and wood and hay, and light that thing on fire. And that thing would get so hot that it would cause the walls to collapse underneath. It would basically blow up, like in Helm's Deep in the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, blow up the wall. Not that dramatically, but it would cause it to collapse. And that way, all of a sudden, the wall was breached, and you just flood your guys through the wall, end the battle quickly. So, sappers are one of the most effective forms in siege warfare. In the spiritual life, there's a good lesson here too. Even if your foundation is strong, if you can defend against things that you can see coming at you. You can put your shield up when the arrow comes. You can hide when you see the catapult firing. You can prepare. If guys are coming up on ladders, you can throw oil on them and light them on fire and cause lots of mayhem. But if there's somebody coming underneath and you don't know it, you're in trouble. Your foundation can be undermined. And that's in fact where we get that term from. Mining under. And then the walls collapse and the enemy breaches your fortress and comes in. So we need to be very careful in our spiritual life and our spiritual warfare. Not just about the enemy's darts that we can see. Not just the machinations that are obvious, the temptations, but the undermining temptations. The low and slow, insidious thoughts, and bad thinking, and temptations that we keep hidden, maybe, or that we don't want to recognize, or we don't want to admit, and we certainly don't admit to others. Maybe we go to confession, maybe we admit them. Those are the things that will finally breach your wall and undermine your foundation. Even a foundation as strong as Christ, if you let it go for long enough, because it will kink, 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 make a crack, and eventually build a breach and knock your walls down. So be careful, be mindful, be wise. Most of the time, your defensive posture will be all the other things that you built up on your foundation. Your walls of prayer, your good habits, your virtues and your disciplines of faithfulness. These things will resist those arrows and catapult boulders and everything. Medieval fortresses continue to be useful until like the 15th century, when cannons finally became used, and then they couldn't withstand it anymore. So other than overbearing force, most of our defensive spiritual life is based on simple good habits and simple faithfulness. And those things will build a framework around you that protect you from all of those other temptations. And that's the second thing we did, was build those walls. Those walls all have to be put together, though, square, as they say. You make sure that everything lines up. The second day, if the first day was back-breaking physical labor, the second day was mental. Measuring everything twice, cutting once, making sure that everything fit the way it was supposed to. There was a couple times where we did things that we had to go back and redo. It was like, oops, somebody cut that too short, or somebody didn't put that in the right place. And it's a real pain. So your spiritual life, everything should work together and hold together and fit together. So you want to look in your life and say, where is my spiritual life got holes, got cracks in the walls? Where are there gaps? That's where the devil's going to find a place in. Just like water when it hits your roof, if there's any hole anywhere in the roof, it's going to find it. And all of a sudden you're going to have dripping in the house like we have here. Do you know our little hole in the ceiling? You don't have to look at it, it's embarrassing. But our little hole in the ceiling, Wait, is it still there? We're going to get rid of it someday, but you'd be amazed at how tricky the water is. We have patched and patched and patched up on the roof, and all it takes is one little spot for water to slowly collect and slowly drip. And you have to go way up on the steeple to find it. But that was enough to cause that hole. Now, I said that most of the spiritual warfare, I know I'm going long, but I figure I'll just tell you everything I said in 4 days in one sermon. Get it over with. I said it's mostly defensive, and that's mostly true, but there is a time for counteroffensive. I say counteroffensive because the spiritual warfare is not really offensive in the sense we're not going out to wage war. A Christian who thinks, I'm going to go out and be a good Christian soldier, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to wage war, there's a danger of prelust, of delusion of grandeur there, of pride. We're not put on this earth to go out and be offensive. We're here to counteract the attacks upon us and then slowly do the counteroffensive. Slowly take back territory for God. There's things we can do in our counteroffensive. As I said, the first thing is not to be offensive. There are lots of ways in which, if you are a faithful Christian, somebody will be offended by you. Simply because you believe that there is a God and that your faith matters or that there's such a thing as truth can offend somebody nowadays. Okay, that's their problem, not yours. Well, how you talk to them and how you present your faith and your truth, the truth of Jesus Christ, to them is important, and it doesn't have to be offensive. God did not die on the cross to make us all, go into the world and be jerks to people and to be Karens and say, I want to speak to the manager. He's the only manager we need to talk to. Take your problems to him. There's a line, but he'll hear you. Our job is to bear a witness to his love and to bring light. So the counteroffensive of the Christian into the darkness of the world is through your good deeds. It's by bringing light and life and love into the world. What we did at Project Mexico was a counteroffensive against misery, against poverty, against the destructive power of sin in the life of the Mexican people and in the life of a family that had suffered greatly because of all of those things. It was a counteroffensive against the devil, death, and sin itself by bringing something good, something true, something beautiful into their life that would benefit them and bless them. That is how you bear witness and fight back. You don't need to go tell the world why they're wrong, why their philosophies or their politics or their music or their art or whatever is wrong, okay? All you need to do is just love and bring goodness and truth and beauty with you. The rest will take care of itself because it will become evident without you having to say what's right and what's wrong. It will become evident by your good behavior. And so the second half of the week was us bringing from that devastation in which they were living, not only stability and security, but also some beauty, making that house look as beautiful as it possibly could be in a neighborhood that wasn't great, but it certainly, when we were done, looked as good as anything else in that neighborhood. Brought the property value up, but more importantly, brought their dignity up as human beings, living now like human beings and not like animals. And that was a way to fight back and strike back. So if you're asking how you can make a difference in the world, try something like that. If you can't go to Mexico, commit random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty in your own neighborhood. Bring dignity to the people you meet by showing them love and mercy and compassion. And you will do your part in the battle. Until next week, Christ is among us.
Yes, no, I shall be.